Welcome back from the ad break, and let's continue with our lesson. Remember, we were factorizing and I just showed you those two methods. Whichever one that you feel comfortable with, you can use. But as we are going along, I'm going to be swapping between the two methods. So we are going to do there number one, that's t squared plus 6t plus 5. I'm going to use that method of expanding that middle term. So we are going to say there a t squared plus 5t plus 1t plus the 5. So can you see how I've expanded that 6t, which is that middle term, into 5 plus 1? Because 5 plus 1 is 6t. So 5t plus 1t is 6t. So what is the next thing that we are going to do? We are going to group these two, and then when we group them into two groups, we are going to find the common factor in each of them. So the common factor with the first group is going to be our t. And when we open a bracket, t squared divided by t is t. We are adding there. Then we are going to have 5t divided by t, and that is going to leave us with just the 5. We're going to do the same thing with the second bracket. Now the common factor there is going to be a 1. And we are going to open that bracket, and when we say 1t divided by t, that is going to leave us with a t, and we are adding in there, so that 5 divided by 1 is just going to leave us with the 5. Remember, this is the point where you notice that your brackets are common, and then we are going to take that common bracket, take it out as a common factor, and then when we take the first term and divide it by the common factor, we are left with t. We take the second term divided by the common factor, we are left with that 1. And that is how we have factorized that trinomial. Let's look at the second one. So that second one there is going to be, let me just get that out of the way, that was a t plus 5. Okay, so the second one there is a k squared minus 8k plus 15. Now for this one, I'm just going to use that method of finding the factors of the value of c. So when we look at 15, we know that 15 comes from 1 multiplied by a 15, because that is a positive 15 there. And then we have also a 3 multiplied by 5. So those are the factors of 15. But remember, we also have a negative 1 multiplied by a negative 15, and we have a negative 3 multiplied by a negative 5. All of them do give us now that positive 15. Now, which one of them, when added, give us the middle term? So in the middle there, we've got a minus 8. So if we've got a minus 8 there, we are going to look at these terms and look at which one gives us the minus 8 when added. And when we look carefully there, that last pair there, because if I say now a negative 3 minus 5, that does give me a minus 8, which is exactly what we are looking for. So what are we going to do? We're going to open two brackets, then we are going to place k in each of the brackets, and the second term in each of the brackets is going to be that pair that we have chosen there. So that is going to be a minus 3, and then that is going to be a minus 5. And that is how we factorize those quadratic trinomials. So let's move on to factorizing in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c, where a is the common factor. Now, do you remember how to take out the common factor? Let's look at a few examples. The form that we are looking at is ax squared plus bx plus c, where a is the common factor. So now a is that first one there, and then it is going to be the common factor with all our trinomials. Here are a few examples. So when we have there 2x squared plus 12x plus 16, we do have a common factor of 2, and we know that because 2 is that first value there, which is the coefficient of x squared. Then we have 3p squared plus 15p plus 18. The common factor there is the 3. And then lastly, we have 5k squared minus 5k minus 30. That common factor there is going to be the 5. So how would we factorize these ones? Let's look at this first example. So remember, we said the common factor is the 2. So we are going to take out a common factor of 2, and each term is going to be divided by that common factor. We are then left with x squared plus 6x plus 8. And when we look there inside the bracket, that is a trinomial. So how are we going to factorize that trinomial? Remember, any method that you want, you can use. Let's look at the factors of 8. Now, to get a positive 8, we have 1 multiplied by 8, we have 2 multiplied by 4. We also have negative 2 multiplied by negative 4, and a negative 1 multiplied by a negative 8. Which pair will add up to a positive 6? We are going to choose that one because a 2 plus 4 does give us a 6. So, when we look at that, remember we open two brackets. We place x in each of the brackets. Then we are going to take the numbers that we chose, or the factors, the pair of factors that we chose, and we are going to place them in our brackets. That was a positive 2 with a positive 4. And we have factorized that trinomial. Let's look at a second example. So we have 3p squared plus 15p plus 18. That common factor was a 3. So when we take out a common factor 3, we are left with p squared plus 5p plus our 6. So remember, in the beginning of the lesson, we did factorize. Okay, never mind. Right, we have the 3, open bracket p squared plus 5p plus the 6. So we look inside the bracket there, that is a trinomial. So we are going to factorize. I'm going to use that other method of expanding that middle term. So when we expand the middle term there, we are going to have here a p squared. Then we are going to have a plus 2p plus 3p plus 6. And when we take out the common factor between those two groups, we are going to be left with, we are going to be left with a 3. And for that first group, we have a common factor of p, and we are left with our p plus 2. And in that second group, we have a common factor of 3, and we are left with our p plus 2. Right? Now, both of those terms have a p plus 2 as a common bracket. So I'm just going to continue there. We have that 3 outside, and then we have that common bracket of p plus 2. And then when we take out that common bracket in each of those terms, we are left with a p plus 3. And that is how we have factorized that trinomial. Let's move on to the last part of the lesson, and that is solving for algebraic fractions. So we are quickly going to use our methods of factorizing to solve for those fractions. So when we simplify algebraic expressions, we have to determine ways in which to factorize the expressions. You'll have to use your mathematical skills to determine which method of factorizing should be used to simplify the expression. Let's see some examples. So in other words, you are not going to be specified, or you're not going to be told that this is a common factor, or this is a trinomial, or you need to do difference of two squares there. You will have to use your mathematical skills to see that. So let's simplify the following fully. When we look at that expression that has been given there, that is 9x squared plus 30x, and it is all divided by 3x. So I am going to factorize. When we look at the numerator there, we can take out a common factor. And the common factor that we are going to take out there is a 3x. Now when we take out a 3x there, we are going to be left with, so we're going to say 9x squared divided by 3x, that is a 3x. And then we are going to say, because there it is being added there, then we are going to say 30x divided by 3x, that is going to give us a 10. Then all of this is being divided by 3x, but when we look at the numerator and the denominator, we do have terms that are the same. That is 3x divided by 3x, that is going to leave us with 1. That means our final answer is 3x plus 10. Let's move on to our second example. So we have there 3x squared minus 12x as the numerator, and as the denominator we have 3x squared minus 15x plus 12. Now, in each of them, we can actually take out the common factor. And I hope you noticed that. So let's start with the numerator. The common factor there with the numerator is 3x. And then when we take out 3x there, we are going to say 3x squared divided by 3x. That is going to leave us with just x. We are subtracting there. Then we are going to say 12x divided by 3x. That is going to leave us with our 4. Then when we look at the bottom or the denominator there, we can also take out a common factor of 3. When we open our bracket there, or after we've taken out the common factor, we are left with x squared, because 3x squared divided by 3 is x squared. Then we are subtracting. Then we say 15x divided by 3, that gives us a 5x. And we are adding, we say 12 divided by 3, that will give us the 4. So, again, when we look at the numerator and the denominator, we need to check if we cannot simplify it even further. Firstly, we have a 3 divided by 3, which gives us 1. So we are left with a x, open bracket, x minus 4. That is with our numerator. But when we look at the denominator, that is actually a quadratic trinomial, which means we can now factorize it even further. Do you remember what we do when we factorize a quadratic trinomial? We are going to open the two brackets, and in each of the brackets we are going to place an x and an x. Now, how do we find the numbers that are supposed to go into those two brackets? We need to look at the factors of 4. So if we are thinking of the factors of a positive 4 there, we have 1 multiplied by 4, and we have 2 multiplied by 2. We also have a negative 1 multiplied by a negative 4, and we have a negative 2 multiplied by a negative 2. So how are we going to solve that? We are going to look for the pair that gives us a negative 5 when we add them. So we are looking for the pair that gives us a negative 5. And that pair is the negative 1 and the negative 4. Because the negative 1 minus 4 gives us the value of b, which is the negative 5. So what do we do with the pair that we've identified? One of the factors will go in the one bracket, and that is a negative 1, and the other will go in the other bracket, and that is a negative 4. Quickly, we look at the numerator and the denominator. We see that there is something that is the same, and remember, a term divided by itself is 1, or a number divided by itself is 1. So we have an x minus 4 divided by x minus 4. That will give us 1. What are we left with? We are left with x divided by x minus 1. And that will be our final answer. I really hope you enjoyed today's lesson of factorizing. It was a wonderful lesson indeed. We hope to see you next time. Goodbye.